Gall and Salver were still stranded on Ignis, and in the previous episode of Foundation, we witnessed their divergent perspectives on the best course of action. On the other hand, Tellum had some other ideas that she had kept to herself. Hober Mallow, who had escaped after being apprehended by the Spacers and later Belrios, was still in the area where Polly and Constant were on Trantor's death row. Discover what transpired in Foundation Season 2 Episode 8, and how the most recent events affect Selden's projections for the future. How did Hober Mallow save Brother Constant? Polly Beresov and Brother Constant, after being caught in the 7th episode of Foundation Season 2, were going to be executed, as Brother Day wanted to set a precedent and let everybody know what happens if one tries to go against the Empire. Polly and Constant were peace emissaries, and they had come to form a peaceful alliance with the Empire, but they were still Hari Seldon's men at the end of the day, whom Brother Day despised. Brother Day had decided that the execution would be broad-beamed through all planets, so that people would think twice before trying to go against the Empire. Constant started saying her prayers, and back at Terminus, her father, Cermak, stood in front of the virtual screen, hoping that some miracle would happen, and he would be able to see his daughter once again. Cermak's prayers were answered as Hober Mallow made a dramatic entry in his whisper ship, which caused a tremor that threw everybody off balance. Hober had come back to save his fellow Terminus residents. Becky also came down from the ship and wreaked havoc on the guards who were trying to stop Hober Mallow. There was a moment in Foundation Episode 8 where we felt like Becky was going to kill Brother Day, but the royal guards got to her before that and killed the beast. For the first time, it felt like the Empire was not infallible. Fear was evidently visible in the eyes of Brother Day when he came face to face with Becky. Brother Day was petrified, and it brought about a change in his war strategy as he decided to go to the Terminus and have a talk with the people there. He said that he was not scared of change, and that he wanted to see what was going on in the Outer Reach himself. Meanwhile, Hober Mallow and Brother Constant indulged in an intimate moment, something that we did expect to happen. But the party was spoiled by the arrival of an unwanted guest. Belrios had finally gotten the better of Hober Mallow, and he took control of his whisper shop, and took Mallow and Constant under arrest. What did Tellum want from Gall? At the start of the episode, we were unsure of what Tellum was trying to accomplish by keeping Gall in a similar type of mental prison to Salver Hardin. After discovering how to control her strength, Gall underwent significant shift. She was aware that Hari Seldon had passed away the entire time, but she remained silent to Salver Hardin. The young child, Josiah, went to Salver Hardin and informed her that Gall was being carried to a location known as the Table. Salver had a feeling that something horrible was about to happen to Gall, even though she had no idea what it was. Salver remembered what Hari Seldon had told her about the Prime Radiant, and how another copy of him existed inside the vault. Salver Hardin had the Radiant with her, and she used it to project her digitized version inside the vault, and have a conversation with the second Hari Seldon. This version of Hari Seldon had no clue that he was a copy or that another Hari Seldon existed in the world. Salver told him about the ongoing situation and how she needed his help to escape from that mental prison. Hari Seldon was surprised beyond any measure as he slowly figured out everything. He asked Salver to be very cautious about not telling him something that she shouldn't, according to the psychohistory. But Salver did tell him about Hober Mallow, and how Gall had seen that he would bring down the Empire. Hari Seldon wrote the name of Hober Mallow on his table, and it appeared on the outside walls of the vault, just like it had earlier when Polly and Constant were sent to rescue him. In Foundation Episode 8, we learned that Tellum had been preparing Gall to become more strong, so she could eventually possess all of her abilities. Tellum explained to Gall that when her body grew frailer with age, she chose a child and, in a sense, became that child. Gall was terrified since she didn't know if she would survive the process and was bound to the table. Tellum reassured her that she continued to visit the kids whose powers she had taken over, but that they had likely lost their physical existence by that point. Meanwhile, Salver has found a way to escape the mental prison, and we hope that in the next episode, she will be able to find Gall and save her life. What was Demerzel hiding from the brothers? In order to have time to plan with Brother Dawn and learn more about the Empire, Queen Sereth asked Brother Day to travel to Terminus. By using one bean to serve two purposes, Sereth was able to send Brother Day to a location from which she knew he might not survive. On the one hand, she stood up for him when no one else did and proved her loyalty. Demerzel was aware of her true motives, but she also understood that it was improper to criticize her. Sereth was unwilling to listen to Rue Corintha when she requested that he discuss the repercussions of having an affair with Brother Dawn. Rue's point of view was that if she was able to ascertain that something was happening between her and Dawn, then it wouldn't take long for Demerzel and Brother Day to know about it. Sereth once again met Dawn secretly after Brother Day left, and they indulged in an intimate moment, expressing their love for each other. Sereth was entertaining the possibility that Brother Day might never return from Terminus, but Dawn told her that he couldn't think like that because, at the end of the day, they were still his brothers. He said that Demerzel would protect the genetic dynasty at all costs, because he was programmed to do that. That's when it came to Sereth's mind that someone would have programmed Demerzel, too. Brother Dawn figured out that Demerzel only had one true master, i.e., Cleonai, and for all these years, she had been serving only him and not the genetic dynasty. In Foundation Episode 8's ending, Rue and Brother Dusk entered a secret passageway that existed behind the chroma wall paintings. He told Rue that Demerzel had made great efforts to keep it a secret from everyone else. Like Queen Sereth, Rue and Dusk were curious about Demerzel's ancestry. Inside the hidden passageway, they sought a projection of Cleonai, who informed Rue and Dusk that the location was, among other things, a prison. Then we understood that Demerzel was the sole legitimate heir to Cleon I, and that she had been performing her duties as the first Empress all along. It will be interesting to see what Brother Dusk and Dawn do with this new information, because it fundamentally alters the situation. Sereth also understood that Demerzel, who was far more powerful than she had anticipated, was the one with whom she had to really contend. The genetic dynasty was being controlled by Demerzel, and people until now thought that she was the puppet who was acting on the orders of her masters. In the upcoming episodes, we will get to know what impact this realization has on Sereth's strategy, and if Gaul, back at Ignis, is able to get the better of Telem.